So today we're going to keep looking at factoring polynomials, and we're still going to focus on if that lead term is prime. The difference today is going to be, what if that back term is a negative number? And I'm going to show you a different method, and I did link this up with a different video that someone else did, but I'm going to show you a different method that I also like. It's completely up to you which one you choose for this. So I take the front and the back terms, and I call this the magic method. It could also be called the crisscross method. I take the 2n squared, and I take the negative 35. I'm going to multiply them together, and I'm going to end up with negative 70n squared. I now look at that negative 70n squared, and I say, okay, how do I get to that? Through multiplication. So 1 and 70, 2 and 35, 3 does not go into it, 4 doesn't go into it, 5 and 14, 7 and 10. I have to keep in mind that I have a negative sign right here. So I'm thinking about subtracting these pairs of numbers, and I'm going to try and get to this positive 3 up here. So I'm asking myself, which pair of numbers that multiply to 70 subtract, because of this minus sign, to positive 3? Well, I know my pair of numbers are going to be 2 and 7, 7 and 10. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring down my 2n squared. I'm going to bring down my negative 35. This is where this is a little bit different than what we did before. Now I'm going to ask myself a question. Do I want 7 and negative 10? Or do I want negative 7 and positive 10? Because one of these is going to have to be a negative number because I need negative 70. Well, I want positive 3. So this is the pair of numbers that gives me positive 3. So I'm going to write them in. Now keep in mind, you're going to put an n with these, and I'll explain why when I'm done writing. The reason I'm going to keep writing the n is because this was 70n squared. And I need 7n times 10n to get me that 70n squared. So I need those n's. And again, this is where this is a little bit different than what we did before. I'm going to focus on the first two terms. Not even going to think about the other two. Just going to focus on the 2n squared minus 7. And I'm going to ask myself, what do they have in common? They both have an n. I'm going to factor that n out. When I factor that n out, when you bring a term in, it's multiplication. Distribution is multiplication. When I factor it out, it's like division. So that means this is going to be 2n. 7n divided by n is just going to be 7. You're basically just pulling the n away. This used to have 2 n's, now it has 1. This used to have an n, now it doesn't. Do the same thing on the back. Here's the thing. I need the parentheses to match. I need them both to be 2n minus 7. So the question is, how do I turn a 10n into a 2n? Well, 10 divided by 5 is 2n. And now once I'm here, I just take the two things that I factored out. I take what's in the parentheses. And I'm done. Let's try another example. So our second example, we're looking at 5x squared minus 48x minus 20. I multiply together, I get negative 100. So I make my list. 1 and 100, 2 and 50, 3 doesn't go into it, 4 and 25, 5 and 20, 10 and 10. All the multiples that give me my 100x squared. Because of the subtraction sign, I need them to be 48 apart. So this is my pair right here. Now notice this is a negative 48. Whatever sign this is, put that with the bigger number. Make it easy on yourself. So I'm going to bring down the 5x squared. I'm going to bring down the negative 20. I'm going to take these two guys right here. Since I want positive 2x, negative 50x. Now, the reason I'm doing this, I didn't explain this on the last example. What is positive 2x minus 50x? What is that going to be? Oh, it's negative 48x. So we basically just split him up. Think of this before when we did our distribution. This is the part before we combined our like terms. So now, I want to look at the first two terms. And I want to ask myself, okay, what do 5x squared and 2x have in common? They both have that x in common. I'm going to factor that x out. Similar to what we just did before. What do I know that my back parentheses has to be? Well, we know it has to be 5x plus 2 because they have to match. So how am I going to turn a negative 50x into a positive 5x? Well, 50 divided by 10 is 5. And I want to go from negative to positive. So it needs to be negative. Because think about this. If I were to then take and distribute this negative 10x in, I would end up with negative 50x. I take what's here, the two terms that were factored out. I take the parentheses. And I'm done. And I'm factored. I will post more examples, but these are two to get you started.